The state says a voter fraud scheme has been stopped in Mesa County, but not before a few fake votes got counted.
If somebody tries to do nefarious things, it will be discovered through our process.
Tonight, we take a closer look at just how our ballots are authenticated and counted. Closing arguments in the trial that will determine if two of Colorado's largest grocery store chains can merge. Colorado Republicans urge schools to work around a new law protecting LGBTQ kids. And it's fall, y'all. Watch out, here it comes. That's tonight on Next. The alleged voter fraud caught in Mesa County this week is a good news, bad news situation. Good news is elections officials say they caught somebody who was intercepting these ballots before they got to voters, then voting those ballots illegally. So they found out. Bad news is the system safeguards still let 3 fraudulent votes be counted, and they can't be pulled out of the system. A dozen ballots were taken before they got to voters in Mesa County. Yet those ballots were somehow turned in by somebody to be counted. All 12 were flagged during the signature verification process when signatures on the outside of the ballot envelopes did not match the voter signature on file. When 3 of those voters were notified that they need to cure or fix the issue, they told the clerk's office, "What are you talking about? I didn't vote yet." But even though the automated signature verification rejected all those suspicious ballots, some of them still were counted. And that's because an election judge, a person, reviewed the signature discrepancies and were like, these 4 are good to go anyway. By the time local elections officials caught on to what was happening, 3 of those ballots had already been taken out of their envelopes and counted. They're untraceably in the system.
Obviously, it is regrettable that 3 got through, which is why we have clerks across the state going back and revisiting all of their processes, all of their procedures, and having a zero tolerance policy for any mistakes that are made through the course of signature verification.
That there was Matt Crane from the Colorado County Clerks Association. The election judge who let those 3 bad signature ballots through the system has been reassigned, we're told. No one has been arrested for the underlying voter fraud, illegally voting those ballots. This continuing investigation involves local law enforcement and the Postal Service. The Secretary of State's office says all of the voters who were impacted will still be allowed to cast their ballot. That includes the 3 people whose fraudulently cast ballots have already been counted. Tonight, 9 News investigates just how our ballot signatures are checked and reviewed and flagged for those concerns. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger has that.
This massive ballot sorter in Jefferson County takes the first look at a ballot envelope to see if it's signed and if that signature matches that voter's signature on record.
The outside of your ballot envelope is what has your signature. And we never open an envelope until we have verified that the signature belongs to the person whose name is on the envelope.
So far this election in Jefferson County, this machine has sorted 106,000 ballots. The machine verified the signature of 58,000 ballot envelopes, about 55%.
And it verifies 11 different points on your signature to see if it has a match.
Democratic County Clerk Amanda Gonzalez walked us through the signature verification process. For the 48,000 ballot envelopes with signatures not verified by the sorter, those signatures moved on to human eyes, and the humans looking at them are trained on comparing signatures.
We give you a test of 100 signatures before you're even able to go to the training. 2
election judges review the signatures that the machine did not like. Those judges are required to be of different political parties, or at least one unaffiliated. So far this year in Jefferson County, the humans confirmed almost 42,000 of the 48,000 the machine needed help with. The other 6,000 went to the next level of human review, which looks at even more signatures from that voter.
If you're somebody that's been voting in Colorado for a long time, we might actually have dozens.
Here are all the signatures Denver has on file from me. In Jefferson County this year, only 521 ballot envelopes, less than half of 1% turned in so far, still do not have signatures verified or need to be cured for another reason, like a first-time voter not providing ID. The clerk reaches out to those voters, and if she does not hear back, those unopened ballot envelopes get sent to the district attorney to see if there was a crime committed.
We don't ever open the envelope at all, and we do not count the ballot unless we can verify that that signature is a match.
I will quickly point out that the signature you just saw and the signatures throughout this story are test ballots. They were not real names or current ballots. We do not show personal identifying information. Curing a ballot is something we talk about every election, because that's one reason election results can change up to 8 days after Election Day. And catching a signature error is one thing, Kyle. Catching it and letting it go through the process, that's problematic.
Yeah, not good. Take a step back, all right? Somebody here apparently was voting somebody else's ballot without their knowledge. That is voter fraud, right? We hear a lot of people say things are voter fraud. They're not voter fraud, right? A ballot gets mailed to somebody who is moved. That's not voter fraud. That's just a ballot, right? You know, you see somebody drop off 11 ballots instead of 10. That's not voter fraud. That person might be breaking the law, but that's not voter fraud. This, voting somebody else's ballot, that's voter fraud.
Right, and what we've heard from certain people about scare tactics leading up to going to the ballot box or leading up to Election Day, trying to get you to fear the process. The process has stopgaps like we just showed. Clearly, in this case, it didn't work. But when you get a ballot that is not yours, and you open it, and you choose to fill it out, that's the fraud. And if it doesn't get caught, that stinks. But the process is there to catch that from happening if you do the bad signature, which we saw in Mesa County. It caught it. We just let a couple get slipped through after the fact that it was caught. But the person filled it out. That's the person who's the bad person in this situation.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's like, I haven't heard anybody describe this as a perfect setup, right? You try to do the best you can to foil the bad actors, but there's always going to be people who try to get past the system. Question is, how many can you catch? All right, Marshall, thank you. An onion grower out of California is recalling its sliced onions that were sent to a facility in Colorado Springs due to possible E. coli. It's not clear whether that recall is directly related to the deadly E. coli outbreak that's been linked to McDonald's Quarter Pounders in Colorado. The E. coli outbreak involving Mickey D's is likely centered in Mesa County. The majority of the cases are there. That's where one person died. The food supplier U.S. Foods notified several restaurants, including Illegal Pete's, about this latest Taylor Farms recall. The recalled peeled and diced yellow onions are from a processing facility in Colorado. Illegal Pete's and some other fast food restaurants, including Taco Bell and Pizza Hut, are pulling onions from some menus for the time being. McDonald's also says that Taylor Farms out of California is the supplier of the onions served on Quarter Pounders, but McDonald's has not specified which Taylor Farms facility. Closing arguments today in the trial over whether two of Colorado's largest grocery chains should merge. State is suing to stop the combination of Albertsons, which owns Safeway, and Kroger, which owns King Soopers. Our Evan Krugel explains why a different company dominated today's discussion.
After weeks of testimony inside a Denver courtroom, a planned merger between Albertsons and Kroger now sits in the hands of a Denver district court judge who has to decide if the agreement would violate state antitrust laws.
This merger will be good for consumers. This merger will be good for the state.
Attorney Matt Wolf has been representing Kroger, which is hoping to acquire 14 of the 105 Albertsons and Safeway stores in Colorado. The 91 others would go to a company called C&S, a food distributor that Arthur Biller with the state AG's office says is unfit to run grocery stores.
This is not a group of people whose goal is to run a successful retail operation. They are wholesalers. It's exactly why it's so dangerous to let this company buy these stores in Colorado.
Biller is worried C&S will run the stores poorly or ultimately close them, reducing competition for Kroger and potentially raising prices for Colorado shoppers. Kroger says companies like Amazon and Walmart are their true competitors, and without the merger, they won't be able to keep up with their prices.
The day after the merger, a customer walking into a formerly Albertsons store, now owned by Kroger, will see lower prices on the shelf.
Ultimately, the judge must decide whether the merger would be a bad deal for Colorado consumers, a question economic experts say we may not know until after a merger happens.
The minute consumers recognize that their prices are way too high, they start switching to some other stores, and that will keep a little bit of pressure on Kroger.
Now, those closing arguments wrapped up just a couple of minutes ago. The judge will now review all of those documents and take the next steps on that decision in about 2 weeks. Kyle?
And this third party, they're going to take control of these stores if this goes through. There's no guarantee that they're going to run them for a long period of time.
That's the big question here, right? Folks on the Kroger-Albertsons side were saying there's no guarantee that they have to keep any of their stores open. Why should this other company be required to keep them open? That's where that monopoly aspect comes into this, right? If they close that stores, what's left in that given community? That's the big discussion here as this lawsuit comes to an end.
Evan Krugel, thank you. 20 minutes out from Avs, Utah, conservative school boards in Colorado are deciding whether to out transgender students to their parents.
The ultimate ask of the court system in Colorado is that it will recognize the elephants as entitled to a single legal right.
A group is trying to free elephants from a zoo in Colorado by declaring them people. And a huge pumpkin, apparently hungry for golfers in Greeley.
All right, today we were sunny, warm, and windy. Those winds still gusting around out there. Right now coming in from the north-northeast at 22 miles per hour, 58 degrees at DIA. We did see some fire weather alerts that were in place until 6. They've since expired, but we're still a little breezy. Areas of the Front Range and Eastern Plains seeing those winds gusting up to around 40 miles per hour in area like Buckeye, but Denver Metro is seeing those winds mostly around 20 miles per hour. Outside of that, our live radar nice and clear. Not a whole lot happening this evening. Overnight lows will be a bit chilly as cooler air is settling over the eastern half of Colorado. I think we see lows near 38 degrees in Denver, but northern portions of the Front Range and Eastern Plains will get even colder with 20s and 30s up in the high country. So because of these cold temperatures across most of the Front Range and Eastern Plains, not including Denver, we will see these lows near freezing. So we do have frost advisories in place overnight tonight and into early tomorrow morning. Off to the northwest, we have a freeze warning for the northwestern corner of Colorado. Those lows dropping to near 26 degrees. Over the next few days, we're going to see temperatures go up and down a bit. That cooler air kind of settles over Colorado or eastern Colorado throughout our Friday afternoon, dropping our highs into the middle 60s. We rebound this weekend, temperatures near 80 degrees Monday. You're going out to support the Broncos. It's going to be sunny and warm. As we move into next week, we have a couple potential impact days, Tuesday and Wednesday. That's going to be for the big temperature drop and for our rain and snow chances. Thankfully, that Nuggets game that's going to be airing on Channel 20 is played indoors. And then by next Halloween, we're going to be seeing chillier temperatures stick around.
Outdoor basketball would be amazing. 15 minutes to Avs, Utah. Colorado Republican Party is encouraging conservative school boards to sidestep a new law intended to protect LGBTQ children. The law, passed by Democrats, requires educational professionals to refer to students by their chosen name. Now, school boards are deciding whether parents should be notified. Earlier this week, school board members in Pueblo District 60 passed their own policy requiring parents be told whenever a kid requests a name other than their legal name. The Colorado GOP and the El Paso County chapter of Moms for Liberty have been circulating similar policies and telling their members to pressure schools into adopting them. Critics on the school board in Pueblo pointed out that district already had a policy passed in 2016 that prohibits them from disclosing a student's transgender status to parents. The whole point was to try and protect students who might be abused if their parents found out. Some on the board argued that abusive parents will only get more mad if they're kept in the dark.
Lost in this whole process is that the purpose of this bill, this House Bill 241039, is to implement those strongly embraced public values. I said students' rights, their expectation of privacy, their safety, not to keep secrets from parents.
I believe that if a student is in harm's way by sharing this information with their parents, they may likely already very well be in harm's way. And to me, you don't tell them now, but in 2 months, 6 months, parents find out.
I hope that when we took down the avalanche graphic that you didn't lose track of the count, that we're now 13 minutes and 50 seconds away from game time. Handful of other districts have already passed similar parental notification policies. Colorado GOP has called on boards to pass far more reaching religious exemptions that would allow schools, teachers, parents to opt out of that name change policy altogether. An animal rights advocacy group thinks that they can spring the elephants from the zoo in the Springs by getting a court to decide they're people. An animal rights advocacy group wants Colorado's legal system to declare that elephants are people too. It's up to the state Supreme Court to decide whether 5 elephants at the zoo in Colorado Springs should be granted legal personhood and freed from captivity. Attorneys for the nonprofit Non-Human Rights Project argued that the 5 female elephants at the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo should have legal protections and should be able to challenge their confinement. Today, the group asked the state Supreme Court to release the animals to an undisclosed sanctuary, citing a constitutional right banning unlawful imprisonment. Lower courts have rejected that argument, saying that elephants are not considered persons under the law and don't get the same protections.
Legal personhood is not synonymous with being human. In other words, legal personhood is a juridical category. It is not a biological category. We know that there are entities aside from human beings who possess legal rights, and they are in turn legal persons. The ultimate ask of the court system in Colorado is that it will recognize the elephants as entitled to a single legal right. That single legal right is the right to bodily liberty.
Cheyenne Mountain Zoo says that that zoo is the best advocate for those elephants, and that the elephants in question are all the single ladies who have not shown any desire to be in a larger herd at a sanctuary. The Non-Human Rights Project says the reason those elephants act so antisocial is because of the stress of captivity. 9.5 minutes to the Avs. 20-mile-per-hour winds don't stop Coloradans from hitting the links. The most Colorado thing we saw today is fall coming in hard. Oh my God. A viewer named Larry was trying to get in and around at the Boomerang Golf Course in Greeley when he and his fellow golfers saw this giant pumpkin coming at him. Couldn't be stopped by trees, just rolling over the terrain. Again, if you were in the Greeley area and this is your giant inflatable pumpkin, it was last seen at the Boomerang Golf Course. Hook that sucker down next time. If you see something that looks distinctly Colorado to you, email to us next@9news.com or text us 303-871-1491. That thing's still going right now. If it's blowing east, it's in Evans, Maryland. Thank you. Hey, have we mentioned the Avs are on after next? 8.5 minutes. Feedback's next. Years of blackouts for the Avs and Nuggets will end in minutes. Coming up right after this, we get to watch the Avs for free right here on 9 News. Avs are in Salt Lake City taking on the creatively named Utah Hockey Club. Avs got off to a rough start this year, 0-4 to begin. They've then won their last 3, so they're back on it. Pre-game coverage begins at 6:30, games at 7. We'll be back here for 9 News at 10 after the game. Zach writes by email about the voter fraud in Mesa County. If they found the fraudulent ballots via signature, why can't they see the ballot inside and cancel out who those people voted for? I get that this is complicated. Think about it like this, right? They look at the signature envelope on the ballot. If the signature is fraudulent, they never look at the ballot inside. They don't count that. So all those ones that they counted, they have not, they've ruled out. They've not counted those votes. It's the 3 that the judge said, go ahead. They separate the ballot from the envelope. Ballot goes into the system. It is untraceable from there. Kelly and Jeffrey asked, who did the fraudulent ballots vote for? We don't know that yet, but if somebody's arrested, that will be in the criminal report, and it will be interesting to see. See you next time.